Hey everybody, and welcome to another tutorial. Now, I've noticed I started my tutorials with so a lot, but now that I've not started my tutorial with so by instead starting with something else. So in the last part seriously. In the last part we figured out how to solve simple variable equations by using methods such as multiplication and division. If you don't recall, we said saying y equals 2 times 4. Or no, that was wrong. That was a different thing. That'd just be 8. That'd be so stupid. Why would I teach you guys something stupid like that? It was stuff like y times 7 equals 56. And as you recall, in order to solve it, we basically just divide, because that's the opposite of multiplication. The opposite of multiplication, if you did not know, was division. And if we had something like, actually change the color for that. If we had something like y divided by 7 equals something small, 3, all we'd have to do was simply multiply y by 7 because it's being divided by 7, and the way of looking at it is y divided by 7 equals y divided by 7 equals 3. So all we have to do is just multiply this entire thing by 7. So doing so, we get 21. And if you don't believe me, real quickly before I begin this tutorial, a very simple way to check your solution to see if it was correct is just by plugging it back into the original equation. For example, let's say I had y equals 21, and I thought I had the answer, but I didn't know for sure. Well, all I gotta do is just, okay, so if I had y divided by 7 equals 3, and my solution was that y equals 21, if I drew 21 out, 21 divided by 7 is still 3. It looks like it's in the clear. And then if we divide everything else out, we finally get that 3 equals 3. And since does 3 equal 3? Well, I don't know. Does 3 equal 3? Of course it equals 3, so check. And thus we have the answer that y equals 21 is correct. This wouldn't work if, let's say, I had the answer of 24 instead of 21 by accident. What we do is, the usual, y minus 7 equals 3, so whatever the answer is must be divided by 3. So 24 divided by 7. And to be completely honest, I don't recall the value of 24 divided by 7, but I know whatever it is, if we know that 21 divided by 7 equals 3, if it's 24 divided by 7, it's obviously going to be greater than. So the solution is always going to be greater than 3, so we get a big old red X over it instead of a big old red check. Now that I've got that out of the clearing, let's take a look at what really happens behind the scenes when you do a multiplication problem. If you recall from way back when you first learned multiplication, you probably learned addition first. This is because, let's consider this problem. 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4, 6 fours, 5 and 6. Now the answer would be 24 if you were to take the time to actually sit there and count everything up. Let's just count it up anyway. 8 and 8 and 8. So 3 8s. 8, 16, 24. Yep, the answer is 24. But if you recall, we learn multiplication afterwards. A multiplication is basically a way to simplify writing out complex addition problems. So instead of writing 4 out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, we can just say 4 times 6. And the answer is 24. This is because multiplication basically is going to say, alright, I want you to put 4 together and group them together, and your value is going to be the grouped value of 4. How many times you're going to group the value of 4 is 6. So you're going to say 4 6 times instead of writing out 4 6 times in your addition paper. Now, in a similar manner, let's say I had 3 x's on my sheet, and I didn't want to write out 3 x's over and over and over again in order to solve the equation. Or, this simple reason I'm telling you is because it's complicated, but there's bigger reasons that I'm going to bring up way later. So instead of writing out x plus x plus x, which would take forever and it'd just be annoying, a mess, the simpler way is to just say, alright, there's 3 x's, so let me just say 3 times x. But wait a second. This times thing, it's the same x over and over again. How do I know, how do I know which x is x? Well, number one, you could do this. You can also write it out 3 dot x. You know, multiplication is very important. But that's something we don't want to do. So in algebra, algebraic people, majiggers, I don't know, they've basically deduced that instead of writing, 3 times x or 3 dot x or whatever, you can just write 3x. Let me explain the logic behind this. Let's say I have 7 plus 7 plus 7. This is going to be equal to 21. Now, another way of simplifying it out is just by writing 7 times 3, which would also be equal to 21. But let's say this new method that they're talking about, let's say I decide to implement it, and I say 7 3 times. By the way, for this scenario, you're going to want to use that parenthesis. I know this is going to be really off topic, but if you're going to use x, you can just leave it by itself. You can do this, but if you're going to use two different numbers, you want to make sure you divide them with a parenthesis. You'll understand everything as soon as this tutorial is over. Just take in for the fact that when you have two constants, from a constant star from previous tutorial, when you have two constants and you multiply them together, and you want to use this this way of writing them out, this way of writing out the multiplication problem, you use these parentheses to separate your two proper names term. We can just say constants for right now. Now, 7 and 3 next to each other basically is understood in math as 7 3 times. Or, otherwise, as we say in the English language, 7 times 3. 7 3 times 7 times 3, this equals 21. 3x, as that problem from right there. I'll actually do this in red. And that problem right there is basically saying, not 3, doesn't even, saying x times x times x. I don't know if you can see that dot. But instead of saying x times x times x, not x times x times x, x plus x, God no. That's not until way later. That's exponents, dude. It's saying x plus x plus x. And, as you recall from multiplication is just an easier way of writing division. Addition. That's one way of really looking at, an addition problem. So, for example, let's say we had to write 7 times x. We can just write 7x, and it's assumed that we're basically saying x 7 times. So basically, it's an easier way of writing multiplication. Now, this is necessary for our next step in pre-algebra. I'm treating this tutorial kind of like how a book would treat approaching the subject. The first unit, so to speak, was simple solving of variables, which we were able to do and we mastered with flying colors. I'm just going to do these real quickly. If you don't understand what they are, if you don't understand how I'm getting them, then you should probably take a look at the last previous 7 tutorials. Okay, and let's see. Now we can say 4x equals 24, and it's assumed that we're saying 4 times x. So basically all we do is divide it out, divide the 4 off, because that's the opposite of multiplication, as we probably discussed earlier. I forget if we discussed this earlier or not. Basically, in order to solve for a variable, you do the opposite of whatever operation is being conducted to that variable. So now what we do is x equals 6. Just in case you guys didn't get that. Let's say we're going to do x divided by 4 equals 3. We get x equals 12. So these are all considered simple solving variables. Well, the proper term is variable isolation, because that's basically, in theory, what you're doing. You're isolating the variable from whatever it has around it, from whatever operation is being done to it, because this had, for example, the 4 around it, this had the 2 being added to it, this had the subtraction of 4, and this had, the division of 4. So basically, we did something called variable isolation. Let me see if I can fit this on the screen. Isolation. Yeah, boy. Isolation. Oh, yeah. But, variable isolation, which is basically taking a variable, whatever it has next to it, and just keeping it on its own. These are the simpler versions. After this next unit you'll be able to solve problems such as this, or something, to find the value of x. But that is for another unit, another tutorial. Actually, it's the next tutorial. If you didn't get this tutorial, it's basically just a wrap on how multiplication works. Rewatch this tutorial. I apologize if it was slightly long or slightly redundant, because I just wanted to drill this in your guys' heads before we move on to more complex stuff. See you guys next tutorial.